I've always been the quiet one in the family. The one who kept the peace, who made excuses for everyone's bad behavior, who paid her share and didn't raise her voice. My sister Mara was the opposite, loud, beautiful, and reckless in that charming way people mistake for confidence. She knew how to fill a room, how to make people bend without realizing they'd already agreed. And me? I was the shadow behind her spotlight. So when the bank first called about a loan, I thought they'd made a mistake. A $50,000 loan apparently under my name. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, still in my work clothes, the steam from my coffee fading as the man on the phone recited the details with clinical precision. I laughed at first, the kind of short, disbelieving laugh that dies in your throat when you realize no one's laughing back. He read out my ID number, my date of birth, my old address, the one Mara and I shared when she was between apartments. My stomach sank. That evening I drove to her place, every mile tightening something inside me. She opened the door with her usual smirk, wine glass in hand, wearing one of those silk robes that looked more expensive than my entire paycheck. "Hey sis," she said as if she'd been expecting me. "I didn't even sit down. You took out a loan in my name." She blinked, set the glass down, then rolled her eyes in that dismissive way she'd perfected since childhood. "Oh come on. It's not like I robbed a bank. I just needed some quick cash for a business thing. You have good credit, it'll be fine." I stood there, too stunned to speak. "Mara, that's identity fraud." She gave me this little laugh, half annoyance, half amusement. "Don't be dramatic. I'm your sister, I'll pay it back. It's just numbers on a screen. Just numbers." The phrase burned itself into me. I left that night without saying another word. I didn't call our parents, didn't report it. I told myself she'd pay it back. That family comes first. That maybe, just maybe, she'd finally act like a grown-up. But 2 weeks later, I got the first overdue notice, then the calls, then the messages warning of serious consequences. My credit score nosedived like a plane with no engine. Meanwhile, Mara's social media painted a different story. Vacations, champagne, new beginnings. She'd captioned one photo, manifesting abundance. I remember staring at that caption so long my eyes blurred. I didn't respond, didn't comment, didn't call. I just watched, and somewhere between shame and anger, something quiet settled in me. Not rage, not tears, just this cold, patient resolve. I started cleaning up the mess. Late nights on hold with banks, letters, documentation, appeals. Hours of talking to people who treated me like I was the criminal. It took everything in me not to break down, and through all of it, Mara never once apologized. In fact, when I confronted her again, she smiled and said, "You're overreacting. You always do. That's why people walk all over you." That was the night I stopped being the quiet one. Because people like her never expect the quiet ones to fight back. They forget we hear everything, see everything, and remember. So when her company announced they were hiring a new internal auditor for the financial department, I didn't think much of it. I'd been applying everywhere after the whole credit fiasco made my old job impossible to keep. But when the recruiter called and I saw the company name on the email header, I almost laughed. Her company, Mara's company. I didn't believe in fate until that moment. I took the job. And 2 months later, when I walked into the conference room for the first day of the audit, clipboard in hand, I saw her sitting there, pale as a ghost, eyes wide, her wine glass confidence shattered into silence. I smiled. "Good morning," I said. "We'll be reviewing some internal accounts today. I hope you'll cooperate fully." She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "Just numbers, right?" When I walked into that room, it wasn't Mara's face I focused on first. It was the silence that followed her recognition of me. A silence so sharp it cut through the nervous chatter of the other employees. She tried to smile. It twitched halfway across her face before dying under the weight of what we both knew. I didn't return it. "Miss Ward," said the finance director, a tall man with nervous energy and a coffee stain on his sleeve. "This is Mara Thompson, our senior accounts manager." I met her eyes. Oh, I remember. Her gaze flickered. She tried to laugh, but it came out strained. A little too bright, a little too fake. "Small world, huh?" "Very," I said. We shook hands. Her palm was damp. The meeting continued, full of polite introductions and corporate buzzwords, but underneath it all, the air was charged. I could feel her panic. Subtle, but real. Her voice trembled when she spoke, her fingers tapping the table in uneven rhythms. I sat there, taking notes, every movement deliberate, calm, professional. But inside me, something cold and steady had come alive. Because this wasn't about a loan anymore. This was about power, about taking back what she stole, not just my credit but my dignity. My task was to review internal financial discrepancies, flag suspicious activity, and recommend corrective measures. Simple on paper, but I knew exactly where to start. Mara's department handled reimbursements, vendor accounts, and employee bonuses, the perfect nest for quiet fraud if you knew what to look for. And Mara had always been a little too fond of shortcuts. The first week, I played it straight: paperwork, polite questions, long hours at my desk while she hovered in the background pretending not to sweat. But in the second week, I began to notice things: expense claims that didn't line up, vendor accounts that looked duplicated, money quietly shifting in patterns only someone like her, reckless but clever, would think no one would notice. At night, I stayed late, combing through spreadsheets. I didn't need to fabricate anything. She'd already buried herself in evidence. All I had to do was shine a light. By the third week, the finance director started noticing too. "Some odd activity here," he muttered one morning, frowning over a printout. "Who approved these transactions?" I glanced over, pretending to check the document. "Looks like Mara Thompson." He frowned deeper. "That's concerning." I didn't say anything, just let the silence do the talking. When I finally confronted her alone, it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was surgical. She cornered me in the hallway one evening, after everyone had gone. "What the hell are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice trembling. "My job," I said simply. "You're trying to ruin me." I tilted my head. "Funny, that's what I thought you did to me." Her lips parted, shock, guilt, and fury all fighting for space on her face. "It was one loan. I told you I'd pay it back." I stepped closer. "You didn't just ruin my credit, Mara. You made me lose my apartment. My job. You laughed when I begged you to take responsibility." She faltered. I didn't think it would." "No, you never do." For a moment we just stood there, two sisters separated by a decade of unspoken resentment, the golden child and the forgotten one, finally standing on equal ground. Then I smiled, small, almost kind. "Relax, I'm not here to destroy you." Her shoulders sagged slightly, a flicker of hope crossing her face. I leaned in, voice low. "I'm here to let you destroy yourself." By week 5, the evidence was overwhelming: misallocated funds, unauthorized transfers, even falsified signatures. She'd been siphoning small amounts into a dummy vendor account for months, maybe longer. Classic amateur greed, just enough to go unnoticed until someone like me showed up. I compiled the report quietly, professionally. No exaggeration, no emotion, just facts, because vengeance is best served with a paper trail. When I turned it in, the finance director read through it in silence. He didn't look up when he said, "We'll have to notify the board." Mara was called into a meeting the next day. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I was. Sitting at the end of the table, quiet, observing. She walked in pale and shaking, clutching a folder to her chest like a shield. The HR manager began reading the findings. The words fraudulent activity, termination, and legal review hung heavy in the air. Mara tried to protest, tears, excuses, even charm. None of it worked. Every word she spoke tangled her deeper in her own lies. At one point, her eyes met mine across the table. I held her gaze, unblinking. She realized then, this wasn't coincidence, this was consequence. When the HR manager asked if anyone had questions, I spoke softly. "I do," I said. "Given the nature of her actions, I'd recommend a full review of external loans or financial entanglements tied to her name, just to make sure the company isn't exposed." Her face drained of all color. She knew exactly what I meant. Afterward, I packed my things quietly. I didn't need to gloat. The victory wasn't in her humiliation. It was in her realization that she'd done this to herself. The last time I saw her, she was being escorted out. Eyes red, her confident posture finally broken. She stopped when she saw me by the elevator. Her voice was small. "Are you happy now?" I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, "It's just numbers, right?" The doors closed between us. That night I went home and checked my credit report. It would take time to rebuild. Years, maybe. But for the first time in a long while, the numbers didn't scare me. Because I'd learned something Mara never did. Numbers can be rewritten. But character? That's permanent. And in the end, mine held. The first morning after Mara's termination, I woke up to silence. No emails, no calls, no banks demanding payment for loans I never took. Just sunlight spilling through the curtains and the faint hum of the city beyond my window. It felt strange, almost wrong to have peace again. I brewed coffee slowly, deliberately. Every step, the pour, the aroma, the first sip felt heavier, fuller, like I was reclaiming time she'd stolen from me. It wasn't victory that warmed me. It was something quieter, more grounded. Relief. The news of her firing spread faster than I expected. Offices always whisper, and soon everyone knew. Company's accounts manager caught in a fraud audit, they said. No one mentioned me by name, though I noticed the looks, subtle nods of respect, curiosity, and the occasional chill of fear. They all wondered who I really was beneath the calm exterior. I didn't tell them, I didn't need to. The official investigation confirmed everything I'd uncovered. Her fake vendor accounts, falsified expense reports, and a small but consistent trickle of stolen funds. Enough to warrant charges but not enough for jail time, not yet anyway. She'd been clever but careless, and for once no one could talk her way out of it. Our parents found out through the grapevine. My mother called me in tears. Not angry, just shaken. "You two used to be inseparable," she said softly. "Why did it come to this?" I didn't answer her right away. Because how do you explain that betrayal doesn't happen in a single moment? It builds quietly, one small lie at a time, until it rots everything underneath. "She used my name, Mom," I finally said. "She ruined my life and didn't care." There was a long pause, then a sigh, deep and weary. "I suppose she thought she could get away with it. She always did." After that there was nothing left to say. One evening, I received an email from a bank officer, the same one who'd first called me months ago. He congratulated me on the successful dispute resolution. My record had been cleared, the fraudulent loan officially removed. I sat there, staring at the screen, rereading the words until they blurred. It was done, truly done. And yet, I didn't feel the rush I thought I would. I didn't laugh, didn't cry. I just closed my eyes and let the quiet wash over me. Because vengeance, I realized, doesn't heal you. It doesn't erase the hurt. It just ends the story on your terms. 2 months later, I ran into Mara again, by accident this time. It was at a small cafe downtown, one of those places that smelled like fresh bread and burnt espresso. I was meeting a colleague for lunch. She was sitting alone in the corner, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, scrolling through her phone with hollow eyes. For a second I almost walked past her, but she looked up and froze. Her expression shifted from surprise to guilt, to something softer. Regret, maybe. She stood, hesitated, then walked over. "Hey," she said quietly. I nodded. "Hey." She swallowed hard. "You look good." "So do you," I lied. She gave a small laugh, the kind that cracked halfway through. "I guess I deserved all of it, huh?" I didn't answer immediately. People around us were chatting, laughing, living, all unaware of the small battlefield playing out at our table. Finally, I said, "You didn't deserve it, you earned it." She flinched at that. Then she nodded, almost grateful for the honesty. "I messed up," she murmured. "I thought I could fix it before anyone found out. I didn't think you'd fight back," I finished. "Yeah." I smiled faintly. "That's the thing about quiet people, Mara. We don't start wars. We just end them." She looked down, fidgeting with her phone. "I'm trying to get my life together. I'm sorry." The words hung between us, brittle, cautious, too late. But still, they were words I'd waited years to hear. "I know," I said softly. "I hope you do." Then I picked up my bag and left her there, not out of spite, but peace. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking away in defeat. That night, I stood by my window again, watching the city lights flicker like small promises. I thought about everything that had happened, the phone calls, the sleepless nights, the humiliation, the slow burn of revenge that had carried me through it all. And then I thought about her face when she realized it was me across that conference table, the exact moment she understood that some debts can't be paid in money. I smiled to myself. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just whispers your name back to the one who forgot its worth. It took years to build my credit again, but that didn't matter. I built myself back first. Stronger, sharper, untouchable. And every time I check my score now, I think of her words. It's just numbers. Maybe she was right, in her own way, because those numbers don't scare me anymore. They remind me what I survived and what I'm capable of.